Hello HEMA friends and welcome to this new video. Today I want to spend a couple words about the concept of observing your opponent. Now, when you are fencing, generally speaking, you are already looking at the opponent, right? Of course, it is obvious, it is the one-on-one thing to do. But fun enough, while looking at the opponent, chance is that you are not observing what the opponent is doing. This happens because while fencing, you are doing actually a lot of different things. Generally speaking, you are thinking at different levels, trying to plan, trying to land your actions, trying to move in the correct way, and so on and so on. Some aspects of this thinking are happening by themselves. All your conditioned movements follow this kind of logic, which is similar to driving, if you think about it. While others need your conscious attention, so planning for instance. But these things are happening all at the same time, so your brain is under a lot of stress and you may lose focus of some things. One of the things that you may lose attention to is observing the opponent. And fun enough, this is the most important thing that you should do always. And when you lose attention toward this kind of aspect, you tend to lose the exchange. Or, generally speaking, it is harder to win the exchange. Now, let's describe observing the opponent, because it is crucial, actually. While talking about observing the opponent, I am talking about the conscious action of watching for the opponent movements, actions, etc., while focusing your attention on a specific spot. This means that you are staring at the opponent for the greatest majority of the time, watching the opponent in his entirety. You are not moving your gaze around, watching at the leg first, then at the hands, then at the face, and so on and so on. This simple thing helps you noticing all that movements, all that ways of keeping the guard, all that tiny little steps, etc., etc., that the opponent is making and that are crucial to observe to land your actions in a clean way. Now, what's the error that people make in this kind of conditions, generally speaking? Especially beginners, of course. The error is that they look at the opponent without actively observing what is happening. This, let's call it error, happens because the greatest majority of our lives we constantly look at things without observing them. This is our standard situation, so we do it constantly. Unless we are observing something because it is extremely interesting. Such as, for instance, when we enter in a museum, where of course we know that we are in a museum and we are supposed to look at the art around in a more conscious and interested way. And so we start doing it with intention and with attention to what we are looking at. The same thing happens when people are, for instance, on vacation. As you are in a country, city or whatever which you have never seen before, you are actually observing things with more attention. This is the actual difference between observing with attention and intention to observe and just giving a look around, which is our standard way of looking at the world. Now, while talking about where to look at while observing the opponent, there are different opinions on the matter. There are people who advocate for staring at the chest of the opponent or for watching the face and the eyes of the opponent, which is useful to understand where the opponent is looking at, which is also useful. But there is also who says to look at the hands, funny enough, for instance, like Ito Itosai in his 12 Rules of the Sword. Different sword masters and different swordsmen of the past had different ideas on the subject. What matters is that wherever you are looking at while observing the opponent is also the part of the opponent which, on average, you will end up hitting the most. So if you tend to observe the hands of the opponent, you will end up hitting the arms and hands most of the time. If you aim for the chest or head, you will search for the deep target more often. This doesn't mean that you will not be able to search for other targets, but that on average it will be easier to search the target you are actually staring to from the very beginning. But getting back on the proper subject of the video, which is observing the opponent, what you have to keep in mind is that while looking at the opponent, it may happen that you are not actually observing the opponent. And this may happen a lot during your practice, sparring, and especially, funny enough, tournaments. So from time to time, when you are fencing, try to be introspective and try to understand if you are actually observing the opponent in an active way. If you understand that you are not doing it and you start doing that from that point onward, you will notice that it will be far easier to act and react, especially against the opponent attacks. Especially if you are a defensive fencer, and generally speaking even more if you are a proactive kind of fencer which likes to stimulate the opponent attacks to then parry riposte or do something else. Well, this kind of conscious observation is one of the most important aspects of your fencing. If you have never thought about this subtle aspect of fencing ever before, I would advise you to do it from now on. Try to apply it during the next sparring session, and if you find the time, just tell me in the comment section how it went and why. Very good, people, I hope you will find this video useful in some ways. Thanks for watching as always. Remember to check my Patreon, link in the description if you want to support me and the channel. And as always, see you next time.